I know that it is sugar. I know that it is difficult to digest, or whatever I know about it. What I am saying is that when we know the good, things about, good aspect of it, simultaneously we also have a knowledge of the other aspects of it. And therefore, even while experiencing anything, whether it is alcohol, or whether it is smoking, or whether it is video, whatever it is, I know the defects associated with that, and therefore, even while experiencing that, I will be aware of it in some form or the other, and therefore, the shuka will not go. Chathsutri is there, dukkha sampruktatvam is there, and then atishayatvam is, sadishayatvam is there. So all of this being there, there is some shoka is always there. In that sense it is said, anityatvat, anityatvam means all that should be included, shokatvam eva. Tasata sukhadukkhi anayana bhashyana, moksha vishokatva visheshanam jnapidam iti bhavaha. So then Bhashyakara said in that, sukhadukkhi, etc., that moksha is vishokaha. How does Ratnaprabhakara conclude that? From Sukha Dukkha, if Vailakshanya from Sukha Dukkha is, both Sukha and Dukkha involve Shoka, and Moksha being Vilakshana from that, Moksha is Vishokaha. Brahmadi Sthavaranteshu iti Bhashyasya Vyakhyanam Anatmamitsu iti. So that dash should not be there. Brahmadi Sthavaranteshu iti Bhashyasya Vyakhyanam. What? Anatmavitsu. So Brahmadishu Sthavaranteshu Prasiddhe. Sukha Dukkhe. Anatmavitsu Aprasiddha Moksha. That in beginning from Brahma right up to these ordinary creatures, Sukha Dukkha are known, Moksha is unknown. Among those creatures, if there are wise people, then they know. But Anatmavitsu Brahmadis Sthavaranteshu Moksha Aprasiddha. That's what it means. Visheshanani, Pancha Visheshanani, all this. Pratyakshe, Sukha Dukkhe, Vishayendriya Sanyoga Sthavarandeshu Prasiddhe, Upabhujyamane, etc. Dharmaphala Muktva, Dharma, Dharmaphala Muktva, having stated now the result in general about Dharma and Dharma, Prasak Visheshana, specifically now, Bhashyakara proceeds to show the nature of Phala of Dharma. Dharma Phalam, Prasak means Visheshana. Dharma Phalam has already been stated, but separately and specifically now, Bhashyakara proceeds to show the result of Dharma. So Bhashyakara says, Manushyatvaditi. Manushyattvad arabhya brahmanteshu dehavatsu sukhatarattamyam anushruyate tatascha tadbhedoho dharmasya taratamyam gamyate dharmataratamyat adhikaritartamyam prasiddham cha arthitva samarthyadikritam adhikaritartamyam. Manushyattvat arabhya brahmanteshu dehavatsu manusyat arabhya. Manushyattvat means manusyat arabhya brahmanteshu dehavatsu. Right up to Brahma. Poor Brahma is always included along with a stump of tree or whatever it is, So Brahma is sthavaranteshu. I don't know why. Just to dismiss Brahmaloka. Vedanti develops certain expressions which themselves are very dismissal in nature, So Brahma is sthavaranteshu. So Brahma falls the same category as Brahma is stamba paryantesu. Stamba means a little creature or a blade of grass, right? Beginning from Brahma is right up to a blade of grass. It's the same category. If you have that, then you have real Vairagya. So Vairagya is when a person can consider not Brahma, but that position. Has the same value for that position of Brahma as one has for a stump of tree or a blade of grass. That's a real Vairagya, Blade of grass, we all Vairagya all that. So therefore blade of grass we said that. You know what kind of attitude or what drashti we have for a blade of grass. That is called Vairagya. So, if you want to know what Vairagya is, what is my relationship with the blade of grass, that is Vairagya. Same kind of relationship you have with Brahmadi, meaning that Brahma Loka, all that wonderful happiness, etc. And the Pratishtha and all this Kriya Shakti, Jnana Shakti, Ichha Shakti, all of this you have. How about that? Do you have Vairagya? Yes? Fine. That is called Vairagya. That's kind of Vairagya. Because then it will not disturb your mind. Moment Asakti is there somewhere, it will enter your mind. When you are meditating or when you are contemplating or any time, what disturbs my mind is all that stuff. Some Asakti somewhere. And therefore, that Asakti creates also Dvesha somewhere. So Raga Dveshas are created because of a value that we assign to all those material achievements. And therefore, it will create disturbance. So if you want a state of mind which is Samadhi of the yogis, or of an abidance of the Vedanta, there should be no distraction at all. No distraction. And therefore Dhyanam is always described as that in which there is no Vijatiya Pratyaya. Only Sajatiya Vritti Pravaha. Reward only Vijatiya. What is Vijatiya? All those thoughts which are interjected by the inherent Raga Dveshas which are inside in subconscious mind, Conscious mind, subconscious mind. Therefore, anyway, this is by the way. So that Vairagya is just so that to have an abiding mind. But anyway, when we hear this, see the expression, Manushyatvad Arabhya, so attitude that the Vedantins have for things is beginning from Manushya. Right up to imagine that nobody is interested any Raga Dvesha towards lower creatures. But all Dharma Phala also is being, therefore, generally speaking, Adho Yonis are considered to be Adharma, result. And Manushya and Udho Yonis are supposed to be considered as result of Dharma. Therefore, Manushyaad Arabhya, or Manushyatvad Arabhya also. From Manushyatvam, from being a human being, right to being Brahmaji, Dehavatsu Sukhatartamyam Anushruyate. You don't know that there is Sukhatartamyam. How do you know that Brahmaji is happier than Indra? Indra is happier than other devas? How do you know? Have you gone to Swarga? Anushruyate. That's what Shruti says. So here Pratyaksha, we see Pratyaksha is also what? Not necessarily to us. Anushruyate. We find in the Shruti the Pratipadanam or Shruti states about the gradation of happiness obtaining even in heaven between Devatas and Indra and Prajapati and Bruhaspati and all of them, that Taratamya is there. That Taratamya is all described by the stories as to how Indra is jealous of Bruhaspati and how, the jealousy of that shows that there is Taratamya. How somebody wants to become Indra and how Indra wants to make sure that somebody doesn't become, and things like that. All of that shows what? Taratamya. And the Shruti also says, Anushruyate, says Ratnaprabha, Saeko Manusha Anandaha, Tataha Shataguna Gandharvadiyamati, Shrutehe Anubhavasaritvam Anushabdartaha. So, Anushruyate, in keeping with the Shruti, Saeko Manusha Anandaha, Te Shatam Manusha Anandaha, Saeko Manusha Gandharvanam Anandaha, Shrutriyasya Kama. Then, the Te Shatam Manusha Gandharvanam Anandaha, Saeko Deva Gandharvanam Anandaha, Shrutriyasya Kama Tasya. And then it goes on like that. So, Shatagunaha, you keep multiplying. Thus we find that there is gradation of happiness beginning from Manushya. That's what Taittiriya and Brihadaranyaka both Upanishads say. Yuva syat, sadhu yuva dhyayaka, therefore Manushyaad Arabhya. Right up to Saiko Brahmana Anandaha, Shrotriyasya cha Kamaha tasya, so Brahmanteshu. That Brahma is Hiranyagarbha. Right up to Hiranyagarbha beginning from Manushya, Dehavatsu. All of them have Deha or Upadhi. That's also a characteristic. And therefore, this happiness that is experienced by beings from human being right up to the Brahmaji is experienced at the level of Upadhi. So what distinguishes Indra from other devatas is that he enjoys a certain kind of Upadhi, where the obstacles to happiness are fewer. Their ability to overcome the obstacles is greater. And their obstacles to experiencing happiness are fewer. And therefore those upadhis yield a greater and greater happiness, and human being has so many obstacles. That I see something good there, I see a beautiful mango, the ripe mango there on the tree, I can't get it because I cannot climb the tree. Had I been perhaps some kind of a Kindara or Gandharva, I could just go and get it. So happiness may be there, but I can't experience it, that's the problem. So very often we are not able to experience happiness because of the limitation of our upadhi. Who is there? I can't eat because stomach problem. And so these problems are not there in Devatas, or these problems reduce as you go further and further up. That's how the intensity of the happiness and the kind of variety of happiness also is greater. I cannot enjoy Santana music right now. I can enjoy some film music all right, or some kind of light classical music. But then you start some serious classical music, you drop off. Why? Because my mind is relaxed at that time, whatever it is. So thus we find the gradations in our ability to experience happiness. This also gives an extremely subtle level of joy. Why do you want to study Brahma Sūtra and all of this? Apart from being Brahma Vidya, it gives a very subtle level of intellectual joy. Provided one has developed that subtlety of the intellect to enjoy that. Otherwise, again you doze off. Why? Because that mind is not ready for that. I mean, that is everywhere. The idea is that happiness that we experience also depends on the kind of upadhi that we have. And this upadhi also changes as we go along up. That's how the happiness gets multiplied by 100. Says Purnanandya, विशेषण प्रथमतः ओके प्रपंच मनुष्यलोकात् ऊर्ध्वलोकेषु शरीराणां सुखाधिक्यं दुःखस्य अल्पत्वं. Beginning from Manushya-loka, as you go up in the other lokas, Manusya Gandharva, Deva Gandharva, and all these, Pitruloka, Ajana-janam, Karma-devas, Devas, Indra, Brahaspati, Prajapati, Brahma, right up to that as you go along, Shariranam Sukhadikyam, there is a greater experience of happiness, Dukkhasya Alpatvam, and the matra of dukkha also reduces. But then it reduces, it cannot be zero. Only in a Brahmajnani there is no dukkha at all. In Brahman there is no dukkha at all. Therefore in Brahmajnanam there is no dukkha. In anything, when upadhi comes, there is some limitation going to be there. Even though Hiranyagarbha is a repository of all the vidya, all the jnana, kriya, ichcha, shakti, even then Hiranyagarbha also is confined to this particular configuration of cosmos and not other ones. Therefore, that shows limitation. Dukkhasya alpatvam, and the intensity of dukkha keeps on reducing. Manusya lokeshu sukha dukkhayoho samatvam. In the Manusya, sukha dukkha are essentially in equal proportion. Doesn't look like it. Dukkha seems to be in much more proportion than sukha. Dukkham, 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 sukham. That's how it looks like anyway. But general understanding is Manusya lokeshu sukha dukkhayoho samatvam. Because when there is mishranam of sukha dukkha, then Manusya janma is there. This is general understanding. Manusya loka adholokeshu dukkadikyam sukha alpadayati vibhagam abhipretya tasyapi taratamyena bhavitavyam. As you go down, then there is in greater and greater intensity of dukkha. There also is taratamya. Some animals are more unhappy than others. Some dogs are happier than other dogs and things, Some dogs are more lucky than other dogs that they ride the cars. So when we are dragging our feet and so forth, there are dogs which are riding cars and air-conditioned cars and all kinds of things there. So in animals also, sukha taratamya is there. And some poor dogs all the time get beating, in the street dogs. So, dukkha taratamya is also there. And that's how vibhagam vipretya tasyapitar. Therefore, Bhashyakara believes that, or shows, dukkha taratamya also is there, sukha taratamya also is there. इति धर्म तारतम्यम उपवादयति सएको मानस इत्यादिना. So अनुशब्दार्थ अनुश्रूयते इति अत्र अनुशब्दार्थ इति विज्ञेयम्. And therefore अनुश्रूयते in keeping with the Shruti सएको मानस आनंदः. Then भाष्यकार says ततस्य तद्धेतोः धर्मस्य तारतम्यम गम्यते. Naturally, when you find a gradation of happiness, therefore you know that since nothing can happen without a reason. This is also our premise. That whatever happens must have a reason behind it. Otherwise it cannot happen. All of these can be questioned, understand. But we are taking for granted here because we are all talking to people of our own kind. And therefore, that is this karya karana sambandha is there, that a karya cannot take place unless there is karanam, and the karya always is in keeping with karanam. That karya is nothing but karanam in a different form, and therefore, what happens, the effect must necessarily have an appropriate cause. If there is more happiness, means more dharma must be there. Less happiness, less dharma must be there. This is what we can infer. Tatascha means what? Sukhatartamya. Since we find sukhatartamya or a gradation of happiness, dharmasya tartamyam gamyate. From the effect, we infer the nature of cause. So dharma is a cause which brings about sukha dukkha. Sukha is something that is experienced by us. So from that is the effect, from that we infer. Since there is gradation in happiness, therefore there must have been gradation in the dharma, which is the cause of this happiness. Dharma taratamyat adhikaritartamyam. And from the gradation of dharma, we know that there is a gradation in the person who performs dharma. Because charity is the same. Each one gave 5,000 rupees, and still one fellow gets a greater result of the same action as compared to other person. That shows that even in course of performance of action also, various factors that are involved, there must be a gradation there. With what desire, what intention, or with what bhavana he gave. You know? So that also decides the quality. And therefore, the person who performs the action is also has a determining influence upon the result. It is not that just because you do a given thing in a certain procedure, then a certain result has to come. Not in case of dharma. What is the quality of your attitude? What is the amount of shraddha? Any action that is performed by shraddha, that becomes even more powerful, more effective. So how much shraddha is there? Dhanam is there, but datavyam iti yad dhanam, that I must give and therefore it is given. That is sattvic. Yattu pratyupakaratham, I am giving all right, but then I expect that some future benefit will come. The result is reduced. And then you give all right, but give it all, with insult and stuff like that. Asatkrutam, avajñātam. Then that dhanam also, actually legally 5,000 rupees are transferred. But as far as the actual quality of action is concerned, what is behind action? There is sattva, rajas or tamas. Karma phala sakti is there, etc. That also determines the quality of action. And that is how the quality of the result also is determined. And that's what Lord Krishna emphasized in Bhagavad Gita, that it doesn't matter what action you perform, may the quality of the performance be only raised, that's all. So, adhikaritartamyam, therefore also we can infer the gradation of adhikari or the person performing the action. Says Ratna Brahma, mokshastu niratishayaha tat sadhanam cha tattvajnanam ekarupam iti vailakshanyam. The reason for saying here the taratamya or gradation of happiness is mokshastu niratishayaha. Happiness can always be improved upon. However, moksha cannot be improved upon. Niratishayaha means unsurpassable. So moksha is the ultimate. It cannot be improved upon. So as Swami is very fond of saying, somebody comes and tells Swami, but Swami, suppose tomorrow they discover something better than Vedanta. You say that you are Brahman, suppose they discover something better than what? Okay, I say that you are Brahman, I say that you are limitless. Come on, improve upon that. Cannot be improved upon. Therefore, no improvement or satishayatvam can be there. As far as sukha is concerned, happiness is concerned, it suffers from this defect that it can always be improved upon. Now, even when we are experiencing happiness, that at the back of my mind, this awareness is there that it could be improved upon. It's not like last time. Not like the day you prepared, The rasgulla are good, all right, but not like that day. This is nice, all right, but not like the way we had it in a given restaurant. And whatever it is, therefore, that's satishyatvam. But in moksha, there cannot be gradation at all. Mokshastu niritisha, unsurpassable. Tat sadhanam cha. And what are the means? For dharma there are many means, so taratamya is there as well as variety is there. In moksha, there is no taratamya, and moksha sadhanam also is one alone, namely tattvajnanam or Brahma Vidya is the only means for moksha. This is vailakshanyam. prasiddham cha arthitva samarthyadikritam adhikaritartamyam. That also Ratnavara does not explain. That Purnanandi explains in on page 146. स एको मानुष आनंद इत्यादि श्रुत्या सुखरदार्थम अनुभूयते इति भावः प्रसिद्धत्वं उपादि अर्थित्व इति. So it is well known adhikari arthitva samarthyadikratam adhikaritartamyam, and therefore one who performs action. So arthitvam, what is the intensity of his desire, and samarthya, what is his capability, all of that determines the quality of the adhikari, and this also is well known in the scriptures. Okay, we will continue tomorrow. Om Purnamadah Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sūtra Bhashya Krutau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah. Ishvaro Gururatmedi Murti Veda Vibhagine Vyomavad Vyapta Dehaya Dakshina Murtaye Namaha. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Rahu Om Atha Om Atha Om Atha Tattva Samanvaya. Page 146. Tayoho Chodana Lakshanayoho अर्थानर्थयोः धर्माधर्मयोः फले प्रत्यक्षे सुखदुःखे शरीरवाङ्मनोभिरेवोपभुज्यमाने विषयेन्द्रियसंयोगजन्ये ब्रह्मादिषु स्थावरान्तेषु प्रसिद्धे मनुष्यत्वादारभ्य ब्रह्मान्तेषु देहवत्सु सुखतारतम्यमनुश्रूयते. ततश्च तद्भेदोः धर्मस्य तारतम्यं गम्यते. धर्मतारतम्यात् अधिकारितारतम्यं प्रसिद्धञ्च अर्थित्वसामर्थ्यादिकृतम् अधिकारितारतम्यम्. Bhashyakara here is in the process of showing the karma and the phala. What's the nature of karma? How there is taratamya in karma, meaning in dharma, as well as in adharma, and also how there is taratamya in the phala, karma phala. Tayoho chodana lakshanayoho arthanarthayoho dharmadharmayoho. From the peculiarity of the karma is, so tayoho phale pratyakshe. Karma means dharma and adharma. Both of them give rise to phala, which is pratyaksha. Pratyaksha is that which is experienced by sense organs and the mind. Sukha dukkhe, the nature of the result is sukha and dukkha. Shariravaṅ manobhirevopa, those who are experienced at the level of the body, mind and the speech. Vishayendriya sanyogajanye, there is always an apparent nimitta. Some apparent cause is there, that some vishaya, some desirable object, and there is a contact with the desirable object, which becomes nimitta for bringing about sukha and dukkha. Brahmadishu sthavaranteshu prasiddhe, and these are well known to happen to everyone, beginning from Brahma right up to a sthavara, like to a tree, to all the living beings. This experience of the pleasure and the pain, they are known to happen. to show the vilakshanata or how the moksha is quite distinct from karma phala. So Hashyakara is in the process of showing how moksha is not a karma phala. Why is it so? Because the moksha is quite distinct from a karma phala. Karma phala is what? Pratyaksham. Moksha is apratyakshah. Sukha dukkha. That sukha and dukkha, both of them are of the nature of shoka. Sukha also is limited. So even when you are experiencing the limited happiness, there is in the background a certain degree of grief there. And of course when we experience dukkha or the pain, there is grief. So the nature of the karma phala is shoka, whereas moksha is vishoka, devoid of shoka. Sharirvang mano bhirevo babhujyamane. And this karma phala is experienced at the level of body, mind and speech, not moksha, which is self, which is aparoksha. These are all pratyaksha. Vishendriya sanyoga janye, that karma phala is born as a result of this sanyoga of the Vishaya and the Indriya. Some nimitta is required for that punya karma to manifest itself. Some good thought came, somebody came, something happened that becomes nimitta for the happiness or the unhappiness to arise. No nimitta. Moksha is what? Nirnimitta. Why are you free? Just free, because that's the nature. Why are you happy? There is always a reason. Why are you unhappy today? Some reason. But then, why are you free? If you ask a wise man, no reason at all. Brahmadishu sthavarandeshu prasiddhe. In all these ignorant beings, beginning from Brahma to a tree, in all the ignorant beings, this kind of karma phala is quite well known. Whereas, of course, so in the wise, the moksha, which is quite contrary in nature, also is known. Manusyatvad arabhya, having now said in general the nature of result of what we call karma, which is dharma and adharma, now specifically the nature of result called dharma, and subsequently the nature of adharma will be specifically stated. Manusyatvad arabhya, how there is taratamya or gradation in happiness, which is the result of dharma or virtuous action. Brahmanteshu, so beginning from manusya, because happiness is experienced basically from manusya onwards. Unhappiness or pain is, generally speaking, in all the beings, manusya and below. So manusyatvad arabhya, beginning from manusyatva, meaning from the human being. Brahmanteshu dehavatsu, right up to manusyatvad means manusyad arabhya ityartha. Manusyatva here is beginning from human being, right up to Brahmaji. Dehavatsu, those who possess deha, possess the upadhi. Sukhatartamyam anushruvate. We see in the Shruti which describes the nature of happiness experienced by these different beings, beginning from Saiko Manusha Anandaha, Teshatam Manusha Anandaha. In this manner, the Ananda, happiness you experience by a human being, then Manushya Gandharva, then Deva Gandharva, and all these different categories of beings, Manusya and up, are described by the Shruti. From that we learn the Taratamya or the gradation in happiness in different beings. It is not that the same intensity of happiness is experienced by everyone, but the intensity of happiness experienced by people is different depending upon the kind of upadhi that they possess. Tatasya tadhetoho dharmasya taratamyam gamyate. From the gradation of the karma phala or the happiness that we see in our experience or that we find the Shruti being described there, we find that the dharma, the amount of tapasya or the punya that these people must have accumulated also must be different. Why should somebody be Manushya Gandharva, and why should somebody be Deva Gandharva, and why should somebody be some other one like Deva and Indra? Because of the taratamya or the gradation in the punya karma that they have accumulated. This is natural, this is logical, that the cause, we infer the nature of cause from the effect. When there is a gradation in the effect, there must be a gradation in the cause. So dharmasya taratamyam gamyate. We can infer the taratamya or the gradation in dharma, which is the cause of the happiness. Dharma taratamyat adhikari taratamyam. And how come somebody perform more tapasya or perform more virtuous actions than the other person? That shows taratamya or gradation in the person performing the action. Otherwise, if it were, if we had the freedom of our own way, we would always do only virtuous action, and that's all we would do. But that doesn't happen because our raga dveshas prevail very often and impel us to do things which we may not wish to do, or we may wish to do it differently. And therefore, depending on the quality of the mind, the quality of the action varies, and therefore dharma or the virtuous action also depends upon the individual, and therefore from the gradation of the dharma or the karma performed, you can infer the gradation of the adhikari, meaning the people, human beings performing these actions. So there also we showed how adhikari for moksha is only one, namely sadhana chatushtaya sampanna, whereas adhikari for karma phala varies. Karmani tu nana vidheti vailakshanyamaha dharma iti. So adhikari taratamyam gamyate. No, dharma taratamyam gamyate. Gamyate na kevalam kintu prasiddham cha ityartha. Not only we can infer, but it is well known also that people are different. Adhikaris are different. This is well known. Depending on varna, ashrama and so forth, adhikaris are different. People are different. Prasiddham cha, also it is well known. Architva samarthyadikritam adhikaritartamyam. We also know, it's well known that architva means, so prasiddhatvam eva upapadayati architva iti. So Bhashyakara himself says, how is it well known that the adhikaris are of different gradation? Because arthitva, samarthya, etc. What is it? Arthi, daksho, dvijoham, buddha iti matiman, karmasu ukto adhikare. Arthi means what? Arthitvam, phalakamitvam. So one who is desirous of phala is called arthi. One who is desirous of artha, or the end result is called arthi. So one who is qualified to perform an action is the one who is interested in the result. Otherwise he should not perform an action. A kamya karma, or any karma for that matter, you should know what the result is, and you must be interested in the result, and then alone the karma will be performed. Otherwise one will not perform the karma also. So arthitvam is a qualification. So putra kamaha yajeta. Who will perform a certain yaga? One who is desirous of putra. So one who doesn't have that desire will not be adhikari for that particular yaga. So for every vidhi or every injunction, an adhikari also is specified. That is what they call adhikari vidhi. Where who is the karma phala Swami? So who is the one who is going to experience that karma phala is adhikari. And he is always also specified. And therefore, arthitvam, one qualification is that you must be desirous of the result that the karma phala gives. Samarthyam, laukikam putradi. Then samarthya also must be there. You must have wealth and you must have putra also. I guess in certain karmas you must be requiring them. So manusam vittam and daiva vittam. You require wealth in order to perform action. To perform all those big karmas and rituals, you require a lot of resources. You require people also. Even if you have money, if you don't have people, you can't do things, Like if you want to perform a big wedding, you require so many people to do things, Some people have to build all the shamyana, and some people have to go out and distribute invitations and cooks, and all kinds of things are required. All these resources are required to perform an action, samarthyam, and also daivam vittam. So you must have the ability to, you must have also ability to meditate and things like that, concentrate your mind, all that also is required. Adipadat vidvatvam. You must know how to perform an action, so knowledge also is required. Shastra aninditatvam cha. Shastra aninditatvam, meaning that which should not be yaga adhikaritvasya, ninditatvad aninditatvam adhikari visheshanam. For certain yagas, certain adhikaris are not qualified. For certain yagas and certain karma, certain adhikaris are not qualified. There is a ninda that you should not be condemned by the Shastra for performing a given yaga. That means acceptance by the Shastra also is a qualification. That Brahma, Yajeta, etc. So otherwise, if other person does it, then it is not proper. Meaning there is a sanction of the Shastra also. So Shastra aninditatvam cha. All these qualifications are required before a person can perform yaga. And there is always taratanya, gradation in vidvata, gradation in the resources that you have, and everywhere the gradations are there. Intensity of even desire also, there are gradations. That's the reason why a person begins performance of an action with a great enthusiasm. In between he stops. Why does he stop? No more interested in the result. Why not interested? For whatever reason. Vairagya aa gaya, kuch ho gaya. That's why people start business. All kinds of things they do. In Gujarat, but Arambha Shura, So you start with a big bang, slowly and slowly energy wanes away, and karma then stops. Why? Because the enthusiasm also waned away. The desire, usme kuch nahi hai. Never people give up. And so that's why we say arthitvam also is very important. If that motivation is not there, person cannot perform action. Performing action requires exertion. And exertion you can do only when there is certain motivation. And when that motivation goes away, karma also cannot be done. So this is how adhikaritartamyam. There is no adhikaritartamya in moksha. Then continues Ratna Prabha. किंच कर्मफलम मार्ग प्राप्यम मोक्षस्तु नित्याप्त है इति भेदमाह. And karmaphalam, like swarga or brahmaloka or even naraka, any karmaphala is there, but here is dharma, therefore swarga or brahmaloka. Marga prapyam, after the death one has to travel through a certain route, then alone you can reach the destination. In short, to experience the karmaphala, you must go to a particular kind of destination. Like Chandraloka, Pitraloka, Swargaloka, all these different lokas are there, and specific routes or marg paths are there. So one must traverse through that path in order to reach that destination. There is no path. Yaheva samaviliyante. There is no path for moksha. It is right here. Nityaptaha. Karmaphalam marga prapyam. Mokshastu nitya aptaha. It is ever attained, and therefore one doesn't have to go anywhere. It is right here. Karmaphala always is in a different time. At least you have to travel the distance in terms of time. Even if you attain karmaphala in this very life, you have to wait for the result to come in terms of time. Or sometimes in terms of place, that you must be in a different place. Or in a different condition, like in different loka. So karmaphala is always distance from the adhikari in terms of time, place and condition. Whereas moksha is, there is no distance at all of time, place, and that is what is being said, tathayadi. So says Bhashyakara, tatha cha yagadi anushthayinameva vidya samadhi vishesha uttarena patha gamanam kevalaihi इष्टापूर्त दत्त साधनैः धूमादिक्रमेण दक्षिणेन पथागमनम्. So marga prapyam. तथा च to illustrate यागादि अनुष्ठायनामेव विद्या समाधि विशेषात् उत्तरेण पथागमनम्. Yagadi anushtayanam, those people who are performing yaga, etc., karma. Vidya samadhi vishesha. Samadhi here is upasana. So, vidya samadhi vishadi bhashya sartamaha upasanayam chitta sthairya prakashad. Vidya is upasana and samadhi is chitta sthairya. So, it is not only enough that person is doing upasana or meditation, but in that meditation also, what is the extent of his concentration? That also determines what the result will be. It's not only enough that I close my eyes and do something within my mind, but then what is the degree of concentration? At the same time, what kind of bhavana am I able to maintain or entertain? All of that also determines the result of upasana or meditation. So just as in performance of yaga, there is a taratamya or gradation of adhikari, and therefore the quality of result varies. So also in upasana there is a gradation also, in as much as when you meditate also, what is the degree of concentration? That also will determine the effectiveness of the result. Upasanayam chitta sthaira prakashad. So vidya samadhi visheshad means prakashad. Depending upon what is the intensity of your concentration. Archiradi margena brahmaloka gamanam. So uttarena patha meaning archiradi margena. So agnir jyoti rahas shukla shanmasa uttarayanam. That is the path that is described. So along the bright path, one goes to the brahmaloka. Brahmaloka gamanam te archisham ityadina shruyate. That's what Chandogya Upanishad also describes very elaborately. The path of the people going to Brahmaloka. Also path of people going to Chandraloka. All this they are described in Chandogya Upanishad. Shruyate ityartha. Shruyate means Shrutya Pratipadyate. It is described by the Shruti. Vidyapadam upasanaparam. तथाच विद्यारूपो यह समाधि विशेष है ध्यान विशेष है तस्माद् हेतु हो इत्यर्थ यदि केचित ऑलराइट सो समाधि विशेष है ध्यान विशेष है उपासना रूप समाधि विशेष है दैट इज अनदर इंटरप्रिटेशन ऑफ रत्न प्रभाकर इज उपासनायाम समाधि उपासनायाम चित्त स्थैर्यम सम पीपल से उपासना रूप समाधि सो देयर समाधि ऑफ द नेचर उपासना एंड देयर द प्रकर्षा. There the degree of intensity is there. That is how another interpretation is there. Okay. Then, kevalaihi ishtapurta datta sadhanaihi. On the other hand, people who do not engage in meditation and merely perform all the social actions. So, social actions are being performed. Social service. So, people performing the actions of the nature of social service, they also accumulate social as well as Vaidika karma that are being performed. So they also accumulate a lot of punya. Even if the meditation is not there, by performance of rituals and the social service also lots of punya is accumulated. But that qualifies one to go to Chandraloka. Dakshinena pathagamanam. Ishta, Purta and Datta. Ishta, Purta and Datta. These are the three kinds of actions that are being described there. अग्निहोत्रम तपस्सत्यम वेदानाम चानुपालनम आतिथ्यम वैश्वदेवम च इष्टमित्यभिधीयते. अग्निहोत्रम तपः सत्यम वेदानाम च अनुपालनम. अनुपालन is protecting the Veda, meaning continuing that parampara of the Veda. Atithyam, hospitality. Vaishwadevam, that Vaishwadeva yaga. All performance of all is called Ishtam. This is all Vaidika karma basically. Ishta comes from the root yaj. Yaj means to worship. So Ishta is where some worship is taken place, and therefore Ishta karma is all the Vaidika karma. And then Purta, Vapi Kupa Tadagadi Devaya Tananani Devata Yatanani Cha Anna Pradhanamaramah Purtamityavidhiyate. Purtam. Vapi means Vav. Kupa means kuha, that's how Gujarati, I'm just to tell you how the words come. Tadaga means tadav, so tadaga means ponds, Kupa means wells, Vapi means also reservoirs, Devata ayatanani cha, and also the temples. Anna pradhanam, distribution of food, Aramaha, Aram means a garden, and so people's, all the rest houses also, Aramaha. So, Purtamiti abhidhiyate, all of this. So this kind of, doing all this social work is called Purtam. Sharanagara Santranam Bhutanam Chapyahimsanam Barhirvedasi Yaddanam Dattamityabhidhiyate. So Datta is a third kind of actions. Sharanagara Santranam. So giving refuge to the one who has taken refuge of you, protecting him. Bhutanam chapi ahimsanam, not hurting anybody. Bahirvedi yaddanam. So Bahirvedi, Vedi means when you are performing the yaga, there also dhanam has to be given, but that is called dakshina. However, so the money that you give to the panditas at the time of performance of yaga is not called dhanam, that is called dakshina. That's the compensation that we give for their having performed this action. So that's a compensatory thing. But the money that you give outside of that is called dhanam. And of course, if it is dhanam, charity that you do while performing the yaga is called dakshina, and charity that you perform in places other than yaga is called dhanam. Dattamitya vidiyate. Bahirvedi chayaddan kratuvanga bhinnam ityartha. So dhanam in dakshina. Dakshina is a part of the kratu or the whole karma, that is not called dhanam. केवल ही उपासना रहित पुरुषकृत ही कर्म भी. So इष्टापूर्त says here Purnanandi on page 146 अन्येषां भी दृश्यते. Actually it should be इष्टपूर्त, not इष्टापूर्त but इष्टपूर्त. So अन्येषां भी दृश्यते व्याकरण सूत्रेण इष्टापूर्त इति अत्र दीर्घः वेदितव्यः. That is the sutra of Panini. अन्येषां, elsewhere also you see it is दीर्घ प्रयोग. What is it? अन्येषां विलक्षणां प्रयोग अनुसारेण पूर्वपदान्तस्य दीर्घः दृश्यते इति सूत्रार्थः. The idea is that even though certain usages in grammar do not have the sanction of the Vyakarana, according so you may not प्रयोग अनुसारेण. So Shishtajana Prayoga Anusarana. According to the Prayoga, by great poets like Kalidasa and whatever, so when they use certain words or expressions, then that is also given a great importance. So therefore, Purvapadantasya Dirgha Drishyate. It should be Ishtapurta. Purvapada is Ishta. Purvapadanta is what? That Akara at the end of Ishta, Dirgha. So A is made A, Dirgha, Ishta is made Ishta. And so Dirgha Drishyate. For which there will be no grammar rule. But we find it being used that way, therefore it is accepted as okay. Idea is that Panini also cannot include every conceivable prayoga, and many prayogas may be there prevalent. And suppose in his research work he may not have come across them also. After all, imagine what an amount of work Panini must have done. And his disciples, of course, there must be a big whole university. And a lot of research work must have gone on, because in order to write the sutras, they should try to include almost every possible use to explain the structure of the language. So you find the usages of Sanskrit taking place in different regions of the country. That shows that they must have traveled, or they must have an intimate knowledge of the usages occurring in so many places. So all these research, then so many usages, all of that they must have done survey. And then must have done a lot of research work to determine how these different usages have come about. And then also there are many which you could not include. So instead of discarding them, you have to give them a place that even though you cannot arrive at by the grammar rules that we can think of, otherwise you would have to write sutra for every usage. Already there are 4,000 odd sutras there. And if you wanted to include everything, there would have been 10,000 sutras, because every prayoga would have to be included, and you would not discard that prayoga as wrong, but then you have to account for it, in which case infinite sutras are required. As many words, as many sutras may be required ultimately, perhaps, but therefore these usages of the Shishta, they are excellent. Not for everybody. That you and I also may have some usage doesn't mean that it is right. But somebody who is recognized otherwise. So when Kalidasa says something, then we have to take it seriously. So which one should you take seriously also is important. And therefore, when great people great in this respect, and so when they have certain usages, we have to do respect it. And there must be a reason why it is done. So we give them the benefit of doubt, and therefore that usage also is accepted in every language and in Sanskrit also. So then Chandasam, Arsham, these expressions are well known, that in Vedas we find certain usages which are not according to grammar rules, so Chandasam. And Arsham, Rishis, in Smriti also we find usages, we call it Arsham. We don't dismiss the Rishis, that doesn't know grammar. or this, so we say no, arsham. So it is a prayoga for which that Rishi alone is pramanam, We don't find pramanam elsewhere, that Rishi is pramanam. Or the Rishis and Vedas have a certain license, as they call it. Chandasam is translated as Vedic license, So Vedas have license. License to transgress, no. There is no reason why they should deliberately transgress unless there is something, some purpose is being served. Anyway, so Ishtapurtam. Now then, continuing the Bhashya, Tatrapi Sukhataratamyam Tat Sadhanataratamyam Cha Shastrat Yavat Sampadamushitva Ityasmad Gamyate. So, alright, people go to Brahmaloka or Chandraloka or Swargaloka. That there also there are gradation of happiness. How do you know that? Here you are making a point that there is a gradation in the intensity of happiness experienced by all the people. How do you know that experience or the happiness experienced by people in Chandraloka, let us say, that there is a gradation? How do you know? There will be a gradation in terms of time. That a person stays in Chandraloka for X number of years, somebody else may stay there for a longer time. In that case, that way also, or in Chandraloka or Swarga also, there are drivers and people, Karma Devas are there, Indra is there. So all of this was described earlier anyway. Tatravi meaning Chandralokepi. Even when you go to Dakshinena Pathagamanam, even when you traverse by the southern path and go to Chandraloka, Tatravi Chandraloke, there also, Sukhataratamyam. There is what we call a gradation of Sukha or happiness. Tat Sadhanataratamyam cha. And therefore the sadhana meaning dharma, which brought about the Sukha also must have a gradation. Shastrat avagamyate. This is what we know from Shastra. So there is no way for us to say, so yavat sampada mushitva sampadati gacchati asmad lokat amum lokam anenedi sampadaha. That by which one goes from this world to the next world, other world is called sampada. Sampadati. Patati means fall, but sampadati gacchati. So the person, that by which a person goes, what takes one from this world to Chandraloka? Only karma. So sampada is karma. Yavat karma bhoktavyam tavata yavat sampada mushitva. So as long as he has that kind of karma in his store, so long tavat bhoktavyam, so long he remains in Chandraloka. Tavat sthitva, remaining there so long, punah ayanti ityartha, and then they come back. Said in Chandogya Upanishad, he is in Chandraloka, and there he has a peculiar kind of a upadhi, because Chandra Loka is made up of water. So this person, when he departs from this body, he carries with him in subtle form the 5 elements, which he has accumulated as a result of the karma. For the whole of his life he has given different ahutis. All his ahutis result into a very subtle result. And all of these transform themselves in the form of those 5 subtle elements, which envelop him. So Jivatma, when he departs from his body, is enveloped by these subtle elements, and then he goes. Then these subtle elements get transformed into a body in Chandraloka, appropriate to that loka. Because going to Chandraloka in this way you can't go there, number one. Even if you go there, then also you cannot experience anything. Suppose you go to moon, you cannot go in this manner. You have to have a special kind of a body, or a special kind of upadhi is required to survive there. And to experience there, you will require all kinds of things on your head and whatnot, So we know this. Similarly, to go to Chandraloka is going to require a special upadhi made up of water. Like water upadhi is there, Chandra is like that. And then he experiences Tatra Somo Raja Bhavati. He experiences there all the pleasures of the world of the moon. And when his karma is exhausted, what happens? Then all of a sudden a grief overtakes him. That, oh, my karma is exhausted. And by that santap or the grief, his body gets melted, And then he falls down. This is how. So yavat sampada mushitva. He remains there as long as his karma lasts, and then the body gets melted away. And then he comes down from Akasha and then Vayu and then Dhuma and Varsha and all this, he comes down, a poor fellow. So this is how the discussion is there. Thus we know that there also there is Taratamyam, so there is, it's not that you escaped the gradation of happiness, pleasure or pain just because you have given up the human body. That thing always chases you wherever you are. Asmad lokad means manusya lokad ityartha ushitva iti padasyarthamah sthitva. Okay. That's what it is. Now Ratnaprabha says, page 148, Manusyatvat urdhvam gadeshu sukhasya taratanya muktva adho gadeshu tadaha. Even in the beings who are lower than human beings also some sukha lava is there, adho gadeshu also. It's not that only this fellows have happiness, primarily dukkha is there, but some sukha is there for dogs and cats also. When a cat gets a rat, that I'm sure there is definite happiness there. And also when a dog gets what it wants, when it gets something wagging its tail, and he gets something that is looking for, you just do, make him happy. So then the dog also feels happy. So there is some sukha lava, or some little happiness is there even in the lower forms of birth, and that is what he said. Sukhasya taratanya muktva adhogateshu tadaha. In the adhogateshu, in the lower yonis also it is being said by Bhashyakara, tathayati. Says Bhashya, tatha manusyadishu narakasthavaranteshu sukhalavah chodana lakshana dharma sadhya eva iti gamyate तारतम्येन वर्तमानः तथा मनुष्यादिषु. So beginning from Manusya, Naragasthavaranteshu, and those fellows, so Sharirajaihi Karmadoshahi Yati Sthavarantam Naraha Vachikaihi Pakshimrgatam Manasaihi Antyajaditam. Sharirajaihi Karmadoshahi Yati Sthavarantam, very said, depending upon your ability of doing sin, in this life, what will you wind up with? That depends upon your capability of violating the law, violating dharma. So Sharira, so you can perform actions at the level of body, speech and mind. So the actions performed at the bodily level, which are of the nature of a dharma, that will qualify you for sthavarantam, meaning trees, etc. That's what you have. Then vachikaihi pakshimrgatam, when you abused a body, all the limbs that you are given have been abused, and that is how the dharma has been violated, then you will not get those limbs. The legs, etc. you will not get, so you will become a sthavara. And then vachikaihi pakshimrgatam, then if you abuse the speech, then you become a pakshi or become a mruga. Mruga means you become an animal where you are deprived of the speech. If you abuse your speech, you get a yoni where there is no speech. Manasahi antyajaditam. And if you perform manasa karma, which are mentally you abuse thought, at the level of thought, antyajaditam. You are born as antyaja. Antyaja means an untouchable, etc. So that is the kind of, so this is what you wind up with by different kinds of karma. So manusyadishu naragastha. In manusya also adho yoni is there. And what is it? All these other yonis which are where there is essentially only dukkha. In manusya yoni also we find people are unhappy just by their very birth and things. People born in slum, etc. have a great disadvantage. They are brought up in a certain miserable atmosphere, and therefore they are born with all pain, and all along there is only pain in their life. It's really very sad. It's all over the world. And therefore in Manusya Jati also there is a predominance of dukkha in many human beings. So we see there that some sukha is there, of course. But then lot of dukkha is there. But Manusyadishu Naragasthavaranteshu In Naraka also there was some relief at some point in time, I guess. That's what Swami used to describe. So when you go to Naraka, then you may be asked to embrace the burning pillars, or you may be thrown in a big pan, with boiling oil. That's why you're thrown in there. And you are not allowed to die. Before you die, take a little ambrosia and sprinkle on that. And so again you revive. Again you are thrown like pakoda and things like that. So, but there in between there, these kind of miseries, some kind of moment should come, I guess, where Sukhalava is there. Whatever it is. So Sukhalava, Chodana, Lakshana, Dharma Sadhya. Even Duryodhana also went for some time to Swarga. It is in dream of Yudhishthira. That shows that some good thing he must have done at some point in time, which qualified him to get some Sukhalava. So, whenever there is even Sukhalava, even a momentary happiness when we find, Chodana, Lakshana, Dharma Sadhya eva. Sukha cannot come from anything other than Dharma. And then when we find even slightest of the happiness experienced by any living being, we know that he must have earned some punya by Dharma, which is Chodana Lakshana, which is enjoined by the scriptures. Tartamyena Vartamana. Therefore, we find, as we say in dogs also, there is Tartamya. Some dogs are happier than others, some cats are luckier than others, and so forth and so on. So some cows, somebody's lot is also wander all the time on the streets, and getting beaten and thrown away or chased away all the time. Some cows are in some nice goshalas, and then, and when you go to Vrindavan, in that Swamiji's ashram, the cows are all for decoration. Mainly there is nothing much done there. All huge cows, all well fed. Because it is something that is the pride of the ashram. So whoever comes to ashram is taken there, then the cows are shown. So naturally, those cows are well fed. And usually you don't extract much milk out of them also. Let the calves get the milk. The calves are also lucky. And some milk you get from those cows, that's all, which otherwise maybe is required. So those cows really are having a good time there. So in cows also, you see the Tarathamya, so the gradation of happiness or whatever it is. So we imagine that in the past birth, these cows also must have done something good to deserve to earn this kind of this situation. Gamyate Vartamana. So we saw that Dharma is there in them also. Idanim dukkha tadhetu tadanushthayinam tartamyam vadan adharma phalam prapanchayati. Just as in Dharma, so in Sukha, its cause Dharma and its performer, the Adhikari, that is Tartamya. So in Dukkha, its cause Adharma and its performer of Adharma. There also Tartamya or gradation must be there. That's what Bhashyakara says. Just to include all karma. All of the discussion is only to show the Vailakshanyam, We seem to be dwelling so much on the karma. But that also we should dwell, because that's the present situation, And at least we should know the Vailakshanyam. So to the extent that we know Vailakshanyam of the present to what exactly is ideal, to that extent we can bring about the transformation ourselves. So that way this discussion can help us. So tatha urdhvamiti. So says Bhashyakara, tatha urdhvangateshu adhogateshu cha dehavatsu dukkhatartamya darshanad tadhetoho adharmasya pratisheda chodana lakshanasya tadanushthayinam tartamyam gamyate tatha urdhvam gateshu adhogateshu cha. Everywhere some dukkha is there. No one is free from dukkha. Dehavatsu. Whoever possesses an upadhi, because there is an upadhi, some limitation will be experienced. And therefore, some dukkha will be there. Of course, depending upon the exaltedness of the upadhi, the dukkha will be much less, no doubt about that, in gradation. However, some dukkha must be there. So, adhogateshu, urdhvam gateshu cha. In all the living beings who are superior and inferior compared to human beings, adaschodham prasutaha tasya shakaha. Samsara vriksha shakas are going up and down with reference to human beings, adhoyonis and urdhvayonis and adhoyonis. So, adhogateshu ja dehavatsu dukkha taradamya darshana. This also we find there is dukkha taratama. It doesn't dwell much upon that. That just as there is gradation of happiness, there is also gradation of unhappiness. Tadheto adharmasya pratisheda shodhana lakshanasya. So therefore, the hetu for the dukkha is what? Adharma. What is adharma? Pratisheda shodhana lakshana. What is dharma? Shodhana lakshana. Adharma is pratisheda shodhana. That which has been actually prohibited by the scriptures and that a person does, that's called adharma. And thus he accumulates dukkha for himself. Tad anushthāyanam cha. There also apichet so apichedasi papebhyah sarvebhyah papakrittamah. There also there can be a champion in performing papa, you know. In papis also there are gradations. So papakrittamah, papakrit, papakrittara, papakrittama. So there is a papi and a greater papi and greatest papi. Swami is champion of the sinners, champion among the sinners. So there is taratamya is there. That in the sinners meaning in the fellows who are adharmis, there also taratamya gradation is there. So in dukkha also taratamya is there. That's the whole idea. Pratisheda chodhana lakshana is nisheda vakya pramanakasya. So that kind of a behavior which is in keeping with nisheda, meaning which is prohibited. Okay. Now having done all this, says now Ratna Prabha, Dvividham karmaphalam mokshasya tad vailakshanya jnanaya prapanchitam upasamharati. Dvividham karmaphalam. Twofold is the result of the karma. What is it? Sukha and dukkha. That's the twofold karma. Mokshasya tad vailakshanya jnanaya prapanchitam. All this elaboration or elaborate discussion on the results of dharma and adharma, that is happiness and happiness, was to show only moksha vailakshanyam, to show how moksha is quite different from them and they are different from moksha. Upasamharati, prapanchitam upasamharati, that is now being concluded by Bhashyakara, evamiti. Evam avidyayadoshavatām dharma taratamya nimittam shariropadana purvakam sukha dukkha taratamyam anityam samsara rupam shruti smriti nyaya prasiddham. Evam, in this manner, avidyādi doshavatam, the people who are endowed with the dosha beginning from avidya. Adi shabdat asmita kama krodha bhayani adi shabdartha. So avidya, asmita, raga, dvesha, abhinivesha. Raga, dvesha means kama krodha. So ignorance, then the sense of individuality, asmita. From that arises the raga and dvesha, the likes and dislikes. From that bhaya, abhinivesha, fear. So all of these are the doshas. So avidyādi doshavatam, and that because of the dosha alone, the dharma and adharma both are possible. So this dosha alone of asmita or ahankara even brings about dharma. The need to accumulate punya also is because I take myself to be what? A dukkhi, and therefore anupahruta dukkhoham. I am the one who is aparihyuta dukkhoham, or whose dukkha is not eliminated. Aprapta sukhoham, that I have not acquired that happiness, and that is how this kind of a conclusion is born of ignorance, and that even animals require me to perform dharma, and when the raga dveshas are there, intensity increases, adharma. So, evam avidyādi doshavatam dharma dharma taratamya nimittam. So that which is caused by the gradation of dharma and adharma, shariropadana, upadana means grahanam. Sharira grahana purvakam. Therefore, different kinds of sharira, the upadis are acquired as a result of punya and papa. Sukha dukkha taratamyam, depending upon the upadi, that is the gradation of sukha and dukkha. Anityam samsaro is all anityam, meaning is limited in time. Samsara rupam, which continues this whole cycle of birth and death. Shruti smriti nyaya siddham. Everywhere it is known in Shruti, which we discuss, Shruti and Nyaya. Tetam bhuktva swargalokam vishalam ityadya Shruti. Kshene punye martilokam vishanti. So Bhagavad Gita also says, having experienced the happiness in the heavens, And when that happens, that karma is exhausted, they again return to this Martiloka. So it is anityam. This is what we find. Swarga also is anitya. Your dukkha also is anitya. Then says Purnanandiya, avidyadimanya shariratartamena sukha dukkha anyatara sambandhiti vyaptim bhashyagarpitam sfuratvad upeksha yastartamena phala sambandhiti vyaptau agnivadi drishtandam jnapan anumanamaha. Bhashyagarpitam vyaptim sfuratvad upeksha. Bhashyagarpitam vyaptim. Bhashyakara also, when he said avidyadi doshvatam dharma dharma tartamya nimittam, so sukha dukkha tartamyam, avidyadimanyas yaha, whoever is possessed of avidya, kama, karma, etc., sharira tartamyena, on account of acquiring the gradations of upadhi, sukha dukkha anyatara sambandhi. So this person is always sambandhi, means associated with sukha, dukkha, anyatara, one of them. So either sukha or dukkha is what is connected with whenever he acquires an upadhi which is a result of the avidya, etc. There is no big thing here, so that is very clear. And therefore, Ratnabhavakara doesn't see the need of specifically mentioning that iti vyaptim bhashyagarbitam sfutatvad upeksha. This is very clear to everybody, so not mentioning that. Yes tartamyena phalasambandhi, yah tartamyena phalasambandhi iti vyaptau agnivat iti drishtandam jnapayan anumanamaha. So yah tartamyena phalasambandhi. Okay. So whoever is tartam, on account of the tartamya of the gradation, is connected with the phala. Vyapto agnivati drishtandam jnapayan. In Agni, he gives the Agni as an illustration. Drishtandam jnapayan anumanamaha. So that Vyapti is not mentioned, but the Anumana is mentioned here. So Vyapti is very clear in what Bhashyakara says. And therefore, says Ratnabhavakara, Kasthopachayat, Jwalopachaya darshanat, phalatartamyena, sadhanatartamya anumanam nyayaha. So illustrate, Drishtanda is given of Agni. Says Kasthopachaya, Jwalopachaya darshanat. We find that when the Kastha Upachaya is understood Lakshanaya, Upachaya Shabda, Tartamyam Arthaha. So when there is Tartamya or the gradation in the Kastha, in the amount of wood that you add into the fire, Jwalopachaya darshanat, we find there is gradation in fire. So fire is the result of the firewood. So depending upon the quantity of the firewood, we find there is intensity in the fire also, jwala, in the flames also. So there, this particular vyapti is contained in there. What is it? Yaha shariratartamyena sukha dukkha anyatara sambandhi iti vyaptim. So because that vyapti is whenever, because of avidya, because of that avidya, there is tartamya in the dharma, because of the tartamya in upadhi, therefore tartamya in sukha dukkha. And so this rule being there, the drishtanta is like fire. In fire also, when there is gradation of firewood, then we find gradation in the flames also. Darshanat phalatartamyena sadhanatartamya anumanam nyaya. Therefore, from the result, you also infer the tartamya gradation of the cause. Ayam tartamyena sadhanaman tartamyena phalavatvat agnivadi prayoga. Not a big deal, but anyway. So ayam, this person is tartamyena sadhanaman. He need not have said all this kind of thing, but it is very clear to us. Ayam, this person tartamyena sadhanavan. This fellow must have done, different gradations of happiness, dharma and adharma. Why tartamyena phalavatvat? Because these different fellows must have accumulated different kind of dharma adharma, because they have different kinds of pleasure and pain. In the world we find people experiencing different degrees of happiness and unhappiness. Therefore we infer that they must have accumulated different degrees of dharma adharma. Just as a fire, the intensity is different depending upon the quantity of firewood. Agnivat iti prayoga. This is the anumana there. This is nyaya. So smruti and the nyaya are shown. Shruti smruti nyaya prasiddham. So smruti and nyaya, Vashyakara does not show, that Tikakara showed. But very Shrutis Prasiddham, then Shruti-maha, Tathachaiti, Bhashyakara himself shows where the Shruti also this is said. Tathacha Shrutihi Nahavai Sasharirasya Sataha Priya Priyayoho Apahatirasti Iti Yathavaranitam Samsara Rupam Anuvadati Tathacha Shrutihi Chandogya Upanishad Nahavai Sasarirasya Sataha. As long as the Sharira is there, as long as embodiment is there, what is meant that is as long as identification of the body is there. Sasharira Atma. As long as Atma has this body, Atma cannot have body. But then we can say Atma has body when Atma is identified with the body. So as long as there is an identification with this body, Priya Priyayoho Apahatihi Nasti. So long there cannot be a cessation of Priya and Apriya. Priya means which is pleasant, Apriya is unpleasant. The pleasant and unpleasant in life will always greet me as long as I am a Shariri or I take myself with the body. Then Atma suffers as though the pleasure and pain on account of identification with the body. So that shows ignorance. The idea is that so avidyadi doshavatan. If avidyadi dosha is not there, if then asmita means ahankara is not there, if the identification of the body is not there, then one becomes free from this pleasure and pain. That will be the next sentence. So that is what it says. Ashariram va vasantam na priya priya sprushataha. The one is asharira, one who is without the body, to him or to that person, the pleasure and pain they do not influence him. Meaning the one who has given up the identification with the body, he becomes free from the effect of priya and apriya. So what is it? Samachittatvam ishtanishtovapattishu. Nityam cha samachittatvam ishtanishtovapattishu. Tatha manapamanayoho shitoshna sukhadukkeshu tatha manapamanayoho. Tulya nindastutir mohni, etc. So that shows how the one who has given up the identification of the body becomes free from these pairs of opposites. So priya and apriya stand for all the pairs of opposites which torment a person. All the time a person is tormented by the pairs of, if there is consistently anything, I think we will get used to it. If there is consistent pain also, I think a person will get used to it. But that is not consistent. You get a relief from the pain. When you go to sleep, then there is no pain. Then you wake up, again the pain comes. So, person is tormented by these pairs of opposites. If life was consistently happy or consistently unhappy, perhaps there would have been no problem. But it keeps on varying and varies to such an extremes. We constantly come across extremes. And therefore, there is a tormenting. Because you are accustomed to something good also, that pleasure, therefore that pain torments you. Otherwise pain will not torment you. It won't be even counted as pain by you. In India, here in Ahmedabad, people are walking around in 117 degrees of, heat. Bareheaded, some bare feet also. They don't seem to feel it. And we have experienced some kind of comfort, and more comfort you experience, more heat, more tormenting that heat will be. And therefore, it is the exposure to the comfort that makes discomfort intolerable. It is exposure to the pleasure that makes the pain such a suffering. Otherwise, if there is consistently hot, 117 degrees every day, then we would have been used, like in Gangotri people live that 12 months a year. There are some in Gomukh. For them cold is nothing because constantly they experience that. Bring them to Haridwar and then see what happens to them. The moment they are exposed to heat, impossible. So it is, understand that this dvandva, that's why samsara is dvandva, pairs of opposites, extremes, like a pendulum. And that is why a person is constantly tormented. They say in Naraka, they throw you in the boiling oil, and then lift you, and then sprinkle something so that you are revived. Again throw you in there. That is how the description is. So that's the tormenting. If you are thrown in there once and for all right, forget it. Either you die or you somehow get used to that. But they bring you up and again let you experience something. Again, this is how the life is. So person is tormented by the pairs of opposites when there is an identification with the body, because that alone is the Atma's contact with the world. Atma is asanga. How can he contact this Priya through the agency of the body? But when they are totally opposed to each other, like the light and darkness, how can Atma have any connection to the body? Adhyasa. So adhyasika sambandha. Purushaha prakrutistho hi bhungte prakruti-jan gunan. Anyway, in this manner, nahavai sasharirasya sataha. As long as one is identified with the body, priya priyayoho apahatihi nasti, there cannot be cessation of tormenting that is brought about by the pairs of opposites. Well, nobody comments upon this part anyway, so says yathavarnitam tathaiva nahavai sarisva sharirasya satah priya priyapahati asthiti akaraka shrutisya samsarum tartamya anuvadati iti anvaya. Shruti also says the tartamya. Okay. Then continuing, so up to this point, page 149 has been shown the karma and the nature of karma and karma phala. Now Bhashyakara proceeds to show the Vailakshanyam with moksha. Although Tikakara showed Vailakshanyam all the time, but Bhashyakara will now proceed to show the moksha and its Vailakshanyam from the karma. Because karma Brahma Vidya Phalayoho Vailakshanya, that was the hetu given by Bhashyakara. So nature of karma is shown, the nature of Brahma Vidya Phalam must be shown, and their Vailakshanyam also must be shown. Now, says Ratna Prabha on page 148, Moksho na karma phalam, karma phala viruddha, atindriyatva, vishokatva, shariradi abhogyatvad dharmavatvat, vyatirekena swargadivati nyaya anugrahyam shrutimaha. So much nyaya is there in that Shruti, So, you read the Shruti statements, but there is so many nyayas in there also. Moksho na karma phalam. Moksha is not a karma phalam. So many hetus are there. Why? Karma phala viruddha. Because it is quite distinct or quite contrary to karma phala. Atindriyatva, vishokatva. Each one of them is a, says here, vishokatvadikam prathak prathakeva hetu hiti mantavyam. Samsara varnayena jnapitam hetumaha. So, even though Tikakara did not comment upon this vakya, nahavai sasharirasya satah priya priyayoho apahati rasti, but what is contained in that is being said here. Samsara varnayena jnapitam hetumaha. So, karma phala viruddha. So, that is how that moksha is, samsara varnana is done. Why? In order to show the vailakshanya of the moksha. So in samsara varnanam, the characteristics of karma are described, and the purpose of samsara varnanam was to show the distinction with the moksha. So karma phala viruddha atindriyat. So karma phala viruddhatvat. And what is it? Why is this atindriyatvat, vishokatvat, shariradi abhogyatvat? So all this is the nature of moksha. Atindriyatvam. It is not something to be experienced by sense organs, it is your own self. Vishokatvam, not characterized by limited pleasure and pain, it is ananda, which is fullness. Shariradi abhogyatvam, not experienced by body, you don't require an upadhi. Moksha is not something to be experienced by upadhi in Swargaloka or something like that. Sukha is something for which you require upadhi invariably. So karma phala requires you to have an upadhi to experience. Moksha does not require a upadhi, otherwise the janma will continue. If suppose for experiencing moksha also you require a body, and then alone you can be mukta, then the janma mrityu will continue. Shariradi abhogyatva, meaning you do not, is not only not experienced by body, you do not require a body to experience the moksha because it is your very self. Dharmavatvat vyatirekena swargadivata. Swarga, which is karma phala, is totally contrary. So Vyatireka Drishtanta is given. Since Anvaya Drishtanta is not there, there is nothing, no Drishtanta for moksha. The contrary Drishtanta is given, Swarga Adivata. Adi includes Naraka and everything. So, iti Nyaya Anugrahyaam Shrutimaha. This Nyaya is contained in the Shruti, or the Shruti is supports this particular Nyaya or reasoning. So, yatra karma phalatvam tatra, what is Vyatireka? The Purnananda says, yatra karma phalatvam tatra vishishta hetu abhavaha yatha swargadivata. Yatra karma phalatvam, wherever karma phalatva is there, vishishta hetu abhavaha. What are the vishishta hetu? This atindriyatva abhavaha, vishokatva abhavaha, shariradi abhogyatva abhavaha. So, these are vishishta hetu. So, these are specific hetus or qualifications for moksha. There is an absence of all these hetus where there is karma phalam, like in Swarga, etc. So, ashariramiti quotes here the Shruti from Vashyakara, quotes from Chandogya, page 149. Ashariram vavasantam na priya priye sprashatah iti priya priya sparsha pratishedhad chodana lakshana dharma karyatvam mokshakhyasya asharirattvasya pratisiddhyate iti gamyate. Ashariram vavasantam na priya priya sprushatah. When the identification of the body is given up, or Atma is a Shariri by nature, is devoid of the body, or a wise man also is called a Shariri, inasmuch as there is no identification of the body. Na priya priya sprushatah. They do not have any influence upon the self who is devoid of the body. Or when one has given up identification of the body, one remains now free or unaffected by these pairs of opposites which constantly greet you regardless of where you are and who you are. It doesn't matter who you are and doesn't matter where you are. The Priya and Apriya will always come, even to the great people also. All kinds of diseases come, Tremendous amount of suffering, simply more intense than, for whatever reason. And so, physical days, and then all sorts of mental pain also comes. Even for gurus also, and for fathers, and for everybody. The lot of difficulties are there, as much as they are associated with the world, and they are associated with people, and also therefore things will come. So at the physical level, at the mental level, at all levels, this Priya and Apriya keep on happening. But to a wise man, they do not have any influence because there is no identification. Otherwise, to an otherwise man, he is constantly tormented by this. So, ashariram vavasantam na priya priya sprushatah. The Priya and the Apriya, they do not have any influence at all on asharira. Idi priya priya sparsha pratishedha. There is pratishedha here of priya priya sparsha. The influence of Priya and Apriya, there is a pratishedha, or there is a negation here of the influence of the Priya and Apriya upon the wise person. Chodana lakshana dharma karyatvam mokshakhyasya asharirattvasya pratisiddhyate. The Priya Priya is what? They are the effect of dharma and adharma. So this is how beautifully it is shown. What is Priya and Apriya? The pairs of opposites, pleasure and pain. And when the pleasure and pain do not influence this person, means what? The cause of pleasure and pain must be absent. Otherwise pleasure and pain has to come. So what is the cause? Dharma and adharma. That must be absent. And therefore, pratishedat chodana lakshana dharma karyatvam. So chodana lakshana dharma karyatvam nasti. We find that this moksha, which is the nature of an absence of influence from dharma and adharma, cannot be a product of dharma, because in moksha there is a negation of effect of dharma. So wherever dharma is, priya apriya must be there. Priya must be there. Where adharma is, apriya must be there. When there is no priya and apriya in moksha, that means there is no dharma and adharma there. That shows that the moksha is not the result of dharma and adharma. This is what we find from that Shruti. I hope that perhaps Shruti may have intended to say that or not, but these nyayas are there. What this nyaya? So, Moksho na karma phalam, meaning it is not the product of dharma and adharma. Karma phala viruddha. So there is a karma phala viruddhatvam is there. What is karma phala? Priya apriya sparsha. Not priya priya, but priya priya sparsha is karma phala. That contact with priya priya is karma phala. So priya priya sparsha viduratva. That's also a hetu. Moksha is devoid of the effect of the karma phala, which is priya and priya. That is there. Atindriyatva. Why? Ashariram vavasantam. Vishokatva na priya priya sprushataha. Shariradi abhogyatva, again ashariratvam vavasantam. And therefore, all these hetus are contained in there, in that particular Shruti Vakya. So from that Shruti Vakya, we can see this kind of inference of being contained in there. Says Ratnabhava Vavaiti Avadharane. So Vava means Ashariram Vavasantam. Ashariram means Ashariram Vava Ashariram Eva Santam. Na Priya Priya Sprushataha. So to anybody else, the Priya and the Priya will definitely influence. Ashariram Santameva. Only one who is free from Asharira. Na Sprushataha Eva. Him, these things do not touch at all. You can connect it. But Vava here means Evakara, Avadharane, to emphasize the thing. Says Ratnaprabha, Tattvato Videham Santam, explains that. Ashariram Vava Santam means what? Tattvataha Videham Santam. Tattvataha Videham. So Janaka is called Videha Janaka. Why? Because even though he was courting a body like everybody else, he was still called Videha Janaka. Why? Tattvataha Videham Santam. Even though he was apparently courting a body, he was not identified with the body, therefore he is called Videha Janaka. So that is called Ashariram Vavasantam. Tattvataha Videham Santam. Atmanam Vaishayike Sukhadukhe Naiva Sprushataha. Or Atma, of course, who is devoid of Deha. So Atmanam can also mean the person. Vaishayike Sukhadukhe Naiva Sprushataha. So this Vaishayika Sukha Dukkha, because moksha is only for the jiva. Atma doesn't require moksha. Who was bound? The jivatma was bound. So who is free? He is free. And so he becomes free from the effects of dharma. Vaishayike Sukha Dukkhe Naiva Sprushataha. Priya Priya means what? Vaishayika Sukha Dukkhe. The pleasure and pain which are created by contact with the Vishayas, this kind of things are absent in the person who is Tattvataha, who is in knowledge, Videha, unidentified with the body, or free from the identification of the body. Vipakshe Badaka Pradibadakam Bhashyam Avatarayati Mokshaschediti.